Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you here at the Technical Forum at the Group Exhibit Hydrogen and Fuel Cells 2013. Please have a seat, have a free drink on the house. You are invited to listen to the next presentation, giving us an overview about the refueling infrastructure in the UK by ITM Power, by the Business Development Manager, Mr. Steve Jones.
Thank you. Okay, good morning. I'm from ITM Power, a UK-based electrolyser company. I'm here to talk about the refueling infrastructure work that's going on in the UK. So, what we're talking about here is clean fuel. ITM Power is a manufacturer of clean hydrogen from renewable energies. And the UK H2 Mobility Initiative is a national hydrogen plan put together by the companies that are in the squares on the side of the screen there. It's a combination of 4 gas companies, 6 automotive OEMs, some government organisations, and the idea is to map out what the UK hydrogen refuelling infrastructure should look like between now and 2030. So we've just completed phase 1 of the programme. The report is out, available to download online. If you Google UK H2 Mobility, you can download the synopsis of the phase 1 results. And the reason that we're doing all of this is the fuel cell the fuel cell vehicle providers have all committed to rollout of fuel cell hydrogen vehicles from 2015 onwards. Hyundai are actually doing it today. You can go out and buy a Hyundai fuel cell vehicle if you like. And all of the other OEMs have signed up and committed to roll out of vehicles on the timescales of 2015 to 2017. So in order for that to be successful, obviously the refueling infrastructure needs to come along at the same time as the vehicles to prevent this chicken and egg situation that we've had in the past. So UK H2 Mobility is a rollout strategy for hydrogen transport in the UK. As I said before, we've just finished phase 1. There are 3 phases in total, and these are the classifications of organisations that have been involved in phase 1 of the programme. So we've got government organisations, vehicle OEMs, gas providers, technology providers, public-private partnerships, and then also representatives from the existing fuel retailers in the UK. And the goal of the phase 1 was to evaluate the potential for hydrogen and how it should be rolled out in the UK. So the key summaries, key findings of phase 1. We assembled a comprehensive fact base specific to the UK, covering the vehicles and the refueling stations. The insights of potential customers were surveyed to see, well, actually, if we bring these refueling stations and vehicles to the market, how is it going to be received by the general public? A rollout plan for the network of the refueling stations has been developed. We've looked at different methods of hydrogen production from fossil fuel sources and from clean energy sources, and combined all these elements together to create that UK roadmap. So the main areas, so we've looked at consumer perspective, and there's a slide about all of these different sections in a moment. The vehicles, the stations, how we're going to produce the hydrogen, how it all looks in terms of monetary value, how the economics are going to work, how much funding is required to develop this refueling infrastructure, and also what the benefits to the UK are. So the fuel cell electric vehicles, there's been positive responses regarding performance and refueling time of these vehicles versus other types of low-carbon vehicles, such as electric vehicles. Driving range was perceived as positive in general, but some high-mileage users did show some concern, because even at the high-efficiency levels that some fuel cell vehicles are operating, that you're still not going to quite get the range of a diesel vehicle with a large fuel tank, talking 600–700 miles. So economics, it's been split up into different classes of consumer, from the richer, more positive individuals that like to support clean tech, right the way through to your normal working class guy that all he's bothered about is how much it's going to cost him. So earliest adopters are actually willing to pay a premium in terms of total cost of ownership of running that vehicle, because it's clean, because it's hydrogen. There's a class of individuals that will be targeted as the early adopters for hydrogen vehicles. The expectation over time is that fuel costs will actually reduce, and they will be lower for fuel cell electric vehicles than you're currently paying today for your petrol and gasoline. So there's both financial and non-financial incentives to driving a hydrogen vehicle, and both of these aspects have been looked at within UK H2 mobility. So in terms of the infrastructure, obviously the lack of a refueling infrastructure is going to be a barrier to fuel cell vehicles being deployed. So the rollout is therefore critical to allowing the vehicle OEMs to be successful in their deployment of hydrogen vehicles. So this is a forecast that was put together for how many thousands of fuel cell vehicles are going to be on the road, and also the cost of ownership of a vehicle. And so we're starting from 2015 and moving towards 2030, and as you would expect, the rollout is that, you know, in the early years it'll be relatively slow, and then pace will pick up going towards 2030. And obviously the total cost of ownership of that vehicle will start at a premium, but over time, as volume kicks in and there's more of these things on the road, the total cost of ownership will reduce. So in terms of the actual refueling infrastructure, what's that going to look like in the UK? So the UK H2 Mobility Initiative looked at population centres in the UK. So where do people live? Where are they most likely to deploy fuel cell vehicles? Where do the early adopters live? Where do those rich early adopters that are going to first take hold of these fuel cell vehicles? And the summary of it is 2015, you're looking at 65 refueling centres in the UK, following the main traffic routes, and then moving towards 2025 and 2030 to full coverage of the UK, including the less populated regions. So there's 1,150 stations in total by the time you get to 2030. We're starting with 65 in 2015. So where's the hydrogen going to come from? The UK H2 Mobility looked at the different types of hydrogen, where you can get hydrogen from, what that means in terms of CO2, what that means in terms of the energy network in the UK. And basically what you can see on the screen here is starting in 2015 and moving towards 2030. And the three colours on the screen, the orange colour represents natural gas derived hydrogen, so there's hydrogen still with a carbon footprint. The blue sections represent water electrolysis, so that's clean fuel production from renewable electricity, making hydrogen to produce a truly green fuel. And the grey section is existing capacities of hydrogen, so waste hydrogen and things that are already in place to provide that hydrogen. So what we can see is that water electrolysis plays a big part in the early years, and overall, even when we get to 2030, just over 50% of the refueling infrastructure in the UK will be provided by water electrolysis. So there's a real focus on clean fuel, renewable derived hydrogen, and that's to both ensure that the vehicles are truly zero carbon, but also to help out the UK energy network, so that it's power shifting, grid balancing between the increasing amounts of renewables that are being deployed in the UK, and allowing that renewable energy to be transferred into the fuel market via electrolysis. So the long-term benefits have been classified in terms of CO2 emissions, global countrywide CO2 emissions, local emissions. So this is about air quality, this is about particulate matter and NOx emissions in the cities, to reduce the amount of emissions that are being put there to increase the air quality, and also energy security. So rather than relying on imports of gasoline and diesel from other countries. What we're trying to do here is maintain energy security in the UK so that the renewable energy that we've committed to putting in place can actually support the vehicle fueling infrastructure as well. So we're not the first to do this. Obviously Germany have started the initiative with their H2 mobility, and there are other countries around the world that are following suit now. So there are national initiatives going on in quite a few countries around the world, and what's common to all of these now is that they are national incentives. So they're government backed, they have clear policy, and they're actually trying to join the dots up and make a national statement about where they want to be for hydrogen. And all of these countries are thinking about where the hydrogen is going to come from. Is it going to be, is it going to have a carbon footprint? And how electrolysis can play a part in that. So, as I said before, we've just finished phase 1. We're now on to phase 2, which is actually the business case development. So it's developing the detailed business case for how the rollout will be implemented in the UK, and defining a risk mitigation and action plan so that the initial rollout of refueling stations in the UK is as smooth as possible. So, a little bit about ITM Power. We are one of the founding members of the UK H2 Mobility Initiative. We are a company that is centred around water electrolysis to provide hydrogen energy systems, energy storage, and also to provide clean fuel for vehicles. So 3 main markets that we're involved in. Clean fuel, obviously, largest global market. It's the market that gets the most press. The UK H2 Mobility is one initiative that we're involved in. We are active in the other mobility initiatives around the world. Energy storage, we're very active in this area as well. Follows the deployment of renewable energy. So this is about buffering the renewable energies so that when the grid operators are trying to decide how they're going to cope with this large inrush of wind and solar energy, you need a method to be able to store that. Electrolysis is a very good option for that. And then also renewable heat. Using renewable electricity to provide heat, it's very difficult to use any other method than hydrogen. A gaseous fuel is a great way of producing renewable heat, and we're active in that market as well. So the bit that we're involved in primarily is the center of this little schematic. So there are a whole host of different types of energy in terms of electricity from different types of renewables transmitted by the grid. The central section is the section that's common to whatever you do with the hydrogen at the end of it, whether it's clean fuel, energy storage, or renewable heat. The bit of the equation that remains the same is the central section, which is the electrolyzer. And just quickly a slide on a large project that we're involved in the UK at the moment. It's called Eco Island. It's on the Isle of Wight, just off the coast of the UK. Some of the partners in the project are in the squares down at the bottom there. And the end goal for this small island is they want to become a net energy exporter to the mainland of the UK. And to do that, they're planting up with a lot of different types of renewable energy. There's going to be a smart grid on the island to decide where is it best to put that renewable energy, depending on the balance of supply and demand. ITM's part in the project is that we'll be putting a large 100 kilogram a day and a 15 kilogram a day refueling unit, electrolysis unit on there that will be used by the power companies to balance the grid and decide where the renewable energy is going to go. But at the same time is going to be exporting that renewable energy from the power market into the fuel market, and there will be a number of fuel cell vehicles that are utilizing the refueling stations on the island. So it's a good example of the kind of projects that we're involved in at the moment. The appetite for this type of technology is growing, and we're seeing more and more people coming up to us with ideas, projects, funded schemes surrounding energy storage and clean fuel. So it's quite an exciting time to be in the industry. So in summary, national hydrogen schemes are emerging around the world. The UK has committed to hydrogen. It's completed phase 1, and we're now into phase 2 and 3 that will see the deployment of real-world stations in the UK. Electrolysis will play a key role. The UK is committed to saying that just over 50% of its refueling stations will be powered by some form of electrolysis. And ITM is positioned itself in the market to provide those solutions to the refueling stations via electrolysis to ensure that the fuel is 100% renewable. So that's the presentation. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones, for this interesting overview about the infrastructure and the position of ITM Power here. So, does anybody now have a question about this position or like to discuss it more in detail?
Yes, my name is Howard Marshall. I work for a gear company in the UK. Can you tell? I apologise, I might have missed the start of your presentation. But what is the sort of pence per mile with the use of a hydrogen vehicle, and what will be the cost of those vehicles for those early adopters that you mentioned?
Sure. Okay. Well, the phase 1 results haven't drilled down into the detail of sort of pence per mile, but they're looking at total cost of ownership of that vehicle over its lifetime. So the initial premium on the vehicles is likely to be somewhere in the region of up to sort of 60 or 70% over what you would normally pay for your original vehicle. But these are really in the early days, you know, a few tens, hundreds of vehicles that are going to be on the roads. So over the period of 2015 to 2020, they're looking to get to a point in time where the total cost of ownership of that vehicle will actually be cheaper than what we're doing today. So the big bit that's missing in all of this is actually getting the governments to commit to how are they actually going to start to tax the fuel. And initially what they've said is that to stimulate the market and to get that early buying is that it will be a tax-free fuel. But then over time, as the cost of ownership of that vehicle and the fueling station comes down, they will start to implement that taxing system. But the point in the back of their heads that they're very aware of is the fact that in order for this to take off, and you know the UK government's committed to it, that they can't increase those taxes to a point in time that it would just put people off. So it will be a gradual increase over time between sort of 2015 to 2020.
Okay. So, are here any question left? No. So, thank you again, Steve, for being here. So, if you like to discuss it more personally, also, you can find your booth near from the public forum, right over there, for the whole day, I think. Yes,
yeah, exactly. It's B60,
okay.
Just behind the public forum.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's your big hand. So, after a short break, we continue our program with a presentation from the Technical University of Denmark. Please have a seat, have a free drink, a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, or some soft drinks here. Goodbye.